lied about Benghazi and the circumstances surrounding the attack on our facility there. Why would we believe them? They've been wrong about everything for the last 30 years. I go further back. They've been wrong about everything for the last 50 years. Vietnam, Iran-Contra, the Kennedy assassination. Why would anyone believe the deep state? They twist the facts to try to fit a narrative that they prefer. Now, you may ask me, what is their motive? Their motive is really simple. Neocon Hillary Clinton promised them a war in Syria, and damn it, they want it. They want an expansion of the proxy war, including, as she said in the campaign, a no-fly zone, an invitation for World War III. Now, I look at the situation in Syria, and I see Assad propped up by the Russians. They're not our friends. Financing Hamas and Hezbollah, gassing, presumably, children. So he's no friend of ours, nor is he any good. And on the other hand, you have ISIS propped up by the Saudis, who are fighting the families in New York, who are trying to collect over the Saudis' role in the murders of 9/11. So they're not our friends. Why would we spend a single borrowed U.S. dollar, because we're so broke now, we had to borrow the money for our adventure in Libya, or a single drop of American blood over Syria? But that is what the neocons want. That's what the military-industrial complex wants. That's what Hillary promised them. And now I think they seek to stampede Donald Trump into seeking yet another unjustified foreign war.
Well, Roger, just to focus on you for a second, because I want to take it from another angle now. Given all that's been put out into the media about your alleged interactions from the Democrats, how much are you going to be demanding your day in court to basically, exonerate yourself and put your good name back in order?
I have written to the chairman of both the Senate and the House Intelligence Committees demanding to testify in public. I require no subpoena. I'll be happy to show up voluntarily. And I'm not requesting immunity. I don't need it. Adam Schiff and some jackass congresswoman from California named Spire, and this fellow who's a new congressman from Connecticut, who I believe his name is Himes, I think. They need to understand that congressional immunity for defamation only extends to things they say on the floor. Things they say off the floor are actionable. They have defamed me. I will take their exact words and show where they are false. So I'm anxious to do that as soon as possible. If I am not afforded that opportunity, I will most likely have no choice but litigation. But even congressmen are held responsible for the defamatory things they say.
Absolutely. The last thing I want to touch on, and I'm excited about this because I'm actually going to the Tribeca Film Festival for this, is the release of Get Me Roger Stone, not only at Tribeca, but it's going to be on Netflix. How was this originally pitched to you, and have you seen it, what the final product is?
I have not seen the entire documentary. Like you, I've seen the trailer, which is very intriguing. This has been a 5-year project of a group of young film producers who I agreed to cooperate with. I don't own any piece of this. There's no monetary benefit in it for me. I'm not being paid for the use of my name or likeness or anything like that. And frankly, my expectation is that it'll be entertaining. I don't expect it to be a hit piece, nor do I expect it to be a love letter. My guess is it'll be a pretty balanced piece. I mean, I have cultivated a certain political style. Some people like it. Some people don't like it. That's fine. I do find the level of personal vituperation being generated, through the paid bots and the whack jobs like Brock to be a bit much. You can go on Twitter. You can go on Facebook right now. You'll see people advocating my murder, the murder of my wife, the murder of my dog, the murder of my family, and so on. It does. No human being could be unaffected by that. I've got pretty thick skin, but the left is so intolerant. The left talks a good game, but when you get right down to it, what they're for is censorship. They think anyone who disagrees with them should be barred from the internet. And that's happening even today. You have Google and Facebook censoring the Breitbarts, the Daily Callers, the Infowars.com, Stone Cold Truth. My openings, my retweets, visitors to my sites grew exponentially before the election, continued to grow immediately after the election, and now they have dropped off to very little. That's because of the manipulation of the logarithms by Google and Facebook in flagrant violation of the antitrust laws, and I think that will probably end up being settled either in the Congress or the courts.
Absolutely. I got one last question from Jerry, and then we're going to make sure that everybody goes to Amazon and every other place where finer books are sold to go buy The Making of the President 2016, How Donald Trump Orchestrated a Revolution. And, of course, we want everybody to go to stonecoldtruth.com and check you out on Twitter at Roger J. Stone Jr. Jerry, you got the last question. I know it's a doozy. Go ahead.
On the recent events, Roger, concerning former NSA head Susan Rice, her contradictions and the recent revelations regarding the intelligence and the unmasking of various individuals, including Mike Flynn, how do you feel about the fact that when James Comey recently testified in this congressional investigation, there was no confirmation whatsoever that he was investigating that end of the overall investigation concerning possible illegal unmasking and the weaponizing of intelligence information?
I would say a couple things. One of the reason that the intelligence services and the Democrats and some in the media are so desperate to find or fabricate some link between Trump and the Russians is because that was their legal justification for the spying on the president. And without it, it becomes that the spying on the president or his associates was done for raw political reasons. It is very clear to me that Susan Rice violated the law. I think we will learn more and more. Given her role in Benghazi, she has a reputation as a proven liar. As far as Mr. Comey is concerned, he has no credibility left. He was the prosecutor in the Sandy Berger matter. Remember that? Yep. Berger went into the National Archives, stole documents by shoving them down the front of his pants that showed that Bill Clinton could have killed Osama bin Laden, but he didn't. Berger belonged in a penitentiary. That's a crime. No prosecution was brought by Mr. Comey. Then there's the Mark Rich affair. Remember that? Mark Rich was an international fugitive from justice. He gave Bill Clinton a multi-million-dollar bribe for the Clinton Foundation through his wife, and he was given a pardon. Bill Clinton should have done time for that. So should have the lawyers who passed the papers and brokered the deal. Mr. Comey was the prosecutor. Nobody was prosecuted. Now, Comey went before the House Intelligence Committee last week and said there was no surveillance of Trump Tower. That's what he said. That's perjury. Why he hasn't been arrested, I do not understand. He has no credibility. He is very evasive in the answers of his questions, but I don't see how, given his track record, anyone can take anything he as serious.
You think there's going to be... Go ahead.
The best way to resolve this would be for the Attorney General to impanel a grand jury and start calling the Obama folks one by one, starting with the big man himself, because the lesson of Watergate is no person is above the law, including Barack Obama. So it's time for him to go before the grand jury. Let's find out what he knew from his national security advisor.
I think that's a great course of action. Roger Stone, you have shaped the course of politics in my lifetime, and I thank you for that. Folks, check out The Making of the President 2016, How Donald Trump Orchestrated the Revolution by the legendary iconoclast Roger Stone. If I can only dress like you, Roger, and pull it off the way you do, my life would be complete. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Folks, check out stonecoldtruth.com as well, and Roger Stone on Twitter at Roger J. Stone Jr. Sir, it is an honor to speak with you.
Great to be with you. Many thanks, Ben.
Behind Enemy Lines. It's an honor to welcome back to the show Senator Mike Lee of Utah. Sir, thank you so much for coming back on.
Thank you. Good to be with you.
Now, I know we're here to talk about FAIR, but I have to tell you, the new book that's coming out, Written Out of History, The Forgotten Founders Who Fought Big Government, very fascinating read. As I'm going through the list of people that you're highlighting here, I'm like to think that I'm an educated man, law degree, all that stuff, but I'm learning things that I never was taught in any school.
Yeah, that's not surprising. Most people haven't heard of most of the people I describe in this book. Very few people have heard of all of them, in part because we don't teach about them anymore. We don't teach about Mom Bet, the slave who won her freedom in early American Massachusetts following the Revolution. We don't learn much about Elbridge Gerry, who was both a signer of the Declaration of Independence and an attendee at the Constitutional Convention, in part because their stories don't fit our modern narrative, a narrative that talks about how big government based on our nation's capital is necessary for everything we do.
We'll hear little snippets. We'll hear about Aaron Burr in a duel with Alexander Hamilton. We'll hear about Elbridge Gerry and gerrymandering, and his name will reign in infamy for that. But you never get the stories that, the Iroquois Indian who taught Benjamin Franklin about separation of powers. Fascinating stuff.
It is indeed. One of the reasons we don't hear about Canasatego is because Canasatego was all about federalism, about the idea that we've got a few powers that are federal, all other powers are state powers. This was not an English concept. This was an American concept, a Native American concept. And it was taught to Benjamin Franklin by Canasatego. But because we've neglected federalism, we've also forgotten about who taught us that, Canasatego. So I'm trying to reintroduce the American people to the man who taught us about federalism, and with it, the concept of federalism itself.
I got to know how you find the time to do all this, between representing the people of Utah, fighting this idea of the liberal left, and educating people. Do you find extra hours in the day that other people like me can't find at all?
I have a lot of long airplane rides, and I have congressional recesses that give me time to do these things.
Fantastic. So we're here at FAIR, and one of the things I've noticed in comparison from last year to this year is the sense of optimism that the new administration has brought, that there may actually be some movement on immigration reform. And we saw that earlier this week with the press conference with President Trump talking about case law and No Sanctuary for Criminals Act and things like that. Is that same sense of optimism in the halls of the Senate?
Yes. It's not the focus of our discussions right now because we're focused on the health care issue. But the American people are calling for relief. They're calling for the passage of laws like case law and like the sanctuary cities provision. We need to get these things done.
Now, you brought up health care, so I have to bring it up now. You're making what I believe to be as a principled stand against the effort to fix Obamacare rather than to repeal and replace what everybody has been promising for years. What's the latest as far as where you stand in talking with the administration about the current state of the proposed legislation?
Well, what I've been calling for is for us to do a full repeal of Obamacare. That's what we promised to do for 7 years. That's what we still should be doing. I've indicated that I'm very disappointed that Republicans aren't doing that which they've been promising to do for 7 years. That said, there are certain bare elements. One of the things that we have to do is get rid of the burdensome regulations that are making health care more expensive, unaffordably so. If we could get that done, I could support it. If not, I don't think I could.
It feels like it's going to be a real tangle of a negotiation because you have people like you who so eloquently stated your position, and then you have more moderate Republicans who are saying a totally different idea, that it maybe goes too far in the direction that they don't want, and they want to see more money put into Medicaid and things like that because they're worried about, frankly, re-election. How do you feel that this tangle is going to unravel? Are we going to end up with no action, or do you think we're going to end up with a workable bill that you can support?
I want to see action. I want to see the Republicans delivering on the promise they've been making for 7 years. Now, make very clear, every Republican who has campaigned for federal office over the last 7 years has campaigned on repealing Obamacare. They did not talk about tinkering around the edges to improve Obamacare and make it sustainable. No. They talked about repealing it. And as far as what we do in Obamacare's wake, that is what states are for. That's what federalism about. This is why I wrote this book. This is why we need to learn about Canasatego. The federal government is not the only show in town. It is not the only government in America. And we need to remind the American people most government belongs at the state and local level.
Absolutely. And it feels like there has been, and maybe it's in the wake of the Obama administration, but there's been this abdication of responsibility from Congress, that they had 8 years of opposition to an administration, and now when you have the ball in your court, they don't know what to do with it. Do you feel that it's being ignored for the sake of political expediency, that the responsibilities that they swore an oath to uphold? Are they working to just work again? This
is the natural condition of human beings. Sadly, our governments are composed of individuals, of men and women. They're imperfect. They will sometimes do the right thing when they're reminded by their constituents that they're expected to do so.
Absolutely. Listen, you have so many more interviews to do here. Everybody go find Senator Lee's book. Where can we find it besides Amazon? On your website?
At Amazon, at Barnes & Noble, or at MikeLeeBook.com.
And we're going to put a link on our website as well so you can get directly from there. Senator Lee, always a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you very much.
Behind Enemy Lines.
We're at halftime here on the show. Thanks for checking us out. I'm Gene. You're about to hear Russ in the next interview. We're Behind Enemy Lines Radio. Check us out at www.behindenemylinesradio.us. Check us out on the Facebooks and the Twitters at BEL_radio. And normally we do this show live, but if you don't check us out live, you can